The group of teenagers mocked the old woman, but when she picked up the phone, they were silent. The story takes place in a small city where life unfolds simply and unhurriedly, where people live slowly, as if time here passes gently and without any disturbances. This city is not distinguished by tall buildings or the hustle and bustle of modern shopping centers. Instead, it stands out with an old quarter, where narrow, winding streets and ancient houses have withstood the test of time. These alleys, with their red-tiled roofs and walls that have faded over time, exude a beauty that is both serene and nostalgic. Everything here, from the footsteps of the locals to the small markets on the sidewalks, evokes a sense of nostalgia. This neighborhood is unlike the bustling, noisy places of modern cities, where people rush about and no one has time to look at each other. On the contrary, here, people stroll leisurely, greeting each other with friendly smiles and small talk. Everything seems to blend into a peaceful picture, where time appears to have stopped, allowing everyone to enjoy the small moments in life. Amidst that tranquil space, there is an elderly woman named Tatiana Petrovna, who has been deeply connected to this old quarter for a long time. She is over 70 years old, with hair as white as snow, having witnessed countless changes over time. Tatiana walked slowly, step by step, her gentle eyes and face bearing the marks of many long years. Although age has made her legs no longer as nimble as before, each step she takes still carries resilience and determination. Nothing can stop her from continuing to live a simple, joyful life, even if it is just daily routines like shopping at the local market. Despite having gone through many ups and downs in life, Tatiana still maintains a strong, patient, and dignified soul. She believes in the classic values she learned from her youth, such as respect for others and kindness. Those values never change, no matter how much the world around them does. And it is precisely because of those principles that she lived fully, with an unwavering determination that was not easily shaken. Tatiana doesn't need attention or praise from others. For her, life is a series of simple yet precious moments. One of her habits is to walk outside every morning, stopping by the store to buy fresh food for the family. Even though she may not be as agile as before, every day she still goes out by herself, enjoying the serene moments and continuing to maintain her independence and autonomy. Everything in her life is very simple, yet deeply humanistic. What she does is not to attract attention or assert herself, but simply because that is how she understands and cherishes life. At this moment, in the peaceful atmosphere of the old quarter, a group of young people aged around 16 to 20 are walking through this area. They are lively young people, dressed fashionably, with trendy clothes and meticulously styled hair. However, their confidence comes with a lack of respect towards those around them. Loud laughter, jokes, and mischievous actions are always an inseparable part of this group of young people's steps. They are the ones who often find ways to mock and tease others, to attract attention and create laughter, even if it comes from hurting others' feelings. This group of young people does not pay attention to the presence of the elderly in the neighborhood. They were used to seeing the world only through the lens of youth, with a sense that everything could become a joke. The appearance of Tatiana, an elderly woman walking slowly on the sidewalk, seemed like a perfect opportunity for them to showcase their humor. When the group of young people encountered Tatiana, she was walking slowly, her legs no longer as nimble as before, but her eyes still contained determination, as if nothing could make her stop. One of the young men, with a curious attitude, saw her gait and couldn't contain his amusement, mocking her. "Look, this old lady is about to fall." His mocking laughter echoed in the quiet space, full of contempt. Another young man, without feeling any shame, continued, "Mom, you should just stay at home. Don't go out anymore now that you're retired. Be careful not to fall." His words seemed not just a simple joke, but a blatant insult to Tatiana, as if she had no value other than being the target of their thoughtless pranks. At this moment, the young people do not realize that they are touching something deeper than they think. In their eyes, Mrs. Tatiana was just an elderly woman, slow and seemingly weak, so they saw no reason to respect her. For them, just a mocking word is enough to create laughter for their group. But for Tatiana, it was not just a simple lack of respect, it was a direct insult to her dignity. But instead of responding with anger or resistance, Mrs. Tatiana remained calm, not changing her pace. She did not let those unreasonable words affect her, because she understood that in life, there are times when we do not need to react to the triviality of others. When she heard the mocking words of the group of young people, Tatiana felt a bit uncomfortable in her heart. Those words were not only an insult to her, but also a lack of respect for the elderly. However, instead of letting the anger boil up inside, she merely sighed softly, continuing to walk at a steady, unhurried pace. She knew that those words were not worth her reacting strongly. Throughout her life, she had faced many challenges, encountered difficulties, and experienced moments of being looked down upon. So how could these petty teasing remarks possibly sway her? She understands that the ignorance and disrespect of the group of young people are just a small part of this vast world. Those young people, with their naivety and inexperience, cannot yet understand the value of patience and self-respect. They mock others because they do not yet know that in life, those who have weathered many storms and challenges, like her, are the ones who truly understand the value of calmness and patience. Their mockery cannot make her confused or lose control because she knows exactly who she is. When the discomfort gently rose, Tatiana needed only a few seconds to regain her composure. She reached into her handbag, slowly took out her phone. There was no rush, no tension or worry. In that moment, she calmly pressed a few keys, as if it were an act of decisiveness, rather than a reaction to the unreasonable words. Even though she didn't look at the group of young people, she could still sense their presence behind her, but she didn't mind. She knew that instead of letting frustration take over, she would use her own resilience and self-respect to calmly resolve this issue. Although the teasing might upset her, she did not let herself be defeated by it. In her mind, maintaining respect and patience is what truly matters. And she understood that sometimes silence and calmness are the strongest answers. Just a brief moment later, Mrs. Tatiana gently glanced at her phone screen, then calmly called her son, Peter. She knew well that in situations like this, the best way to resolve it was to maintain patience and show that she was not someone others could offend at will. Everything will be handled quietly, but decisively. Tatiana carefully dialed the number on her phone, a gentle yet decisive gesture. She is not someone who easily makes phone calls to anyone, especially when it involves asking for a favor or help. But this time is different. Her voice was calm, but the tone in her words carried a seriousness that could not be ignored. Peter, my dear, there are some young men bothering me at the market. They are teasing Mom and making her feel disrespected. Can you help me? She said, her voice gentle but clearly conveying a slight worry. Peter, her son, is a mature man with a stable career. He is working for a major security agency in an important position. Peter's job is very busy. Sometimes he has to handle stressful and complex situations, but no matter what, he always pays special attention to his mother. He knows that his mother is a resilient person, always independent and not easily relying on others. Therefore, when he received this call, Peter immediately sensed the seriousness in her voice. As soon as he heard his mother calling, he didn't need to ask again or think for long. That was a certainty that had long been etched in his mind. If Tatiana called him in the situation, it could be a big problem. Peter knew that his mother was very patient and rarely showed discomfort or asked for help, but when she did, it meant the situation was truly serious. With a frown, He quickly turned off all the missed calls and returned to work. "Mom, don't worry. I'll take care of it right away." Peter's voice had completely changed. From a serious man at work, he had now become a responsible son, ready to protect his beloved mother from any danger. Without a moment's hesitation, Peter immediately switched to work mode. He quickly called the security forces, using his connections and influence within the agency to report the current situation. "There is a group of young people bothering an elderly woman at the market. I need you to be there immediately." His voice was firm, clear, and full of determination. The speed and accuracy of Peter's decision show that he is not only capable, but also has a heart full of responsibility. He understands that this situation cannot be taken lightly. His mother had lived through so many years with respect and patience, and she did not deserve to be mocked by ignorant young people. Therefore, Peter didn't waste any more time. He wanted everything to be resolved quickly and seriously. The call ended, and Peter wasted no time, immediately starting to prepare for the next action. His appearance was not just the intervention of a son, but that of a strong man, with power and decisiveness, ready to protect his mother from threats, whether small or large. Just a few minutes after Peter's call, a sleek, luxurious black car, standing out in the old quarter, slowly glided by and stopped right near where Tatiana was still standing. It was a car that no one in the neighborhood could fail to recognize, with its striking appearance and shiny tires, perfect down to the last detail. The car door opened, and from inside the car, a group of men stepped out. They wore elegant black suits, not extravagant, but full of style and dignity. The way they stand straight, maintain their posture, and every step they take exudes confidence and power. Sharp eyes, confident smiles rarely appear on their faces, but that they possess an underlying strength, as if they are not easily defeated or provoked. When these men stepped out, the atmosphere around them suddenly became more serious, even though no words had been spoken. The mischievous young men, who were now gathering around Tatiana, couldn't help but feel a distinct change in the atmosphere. They immediately sensed that something was off. They were used to being able to freely tease and annoy those around them without facing any serious resistance, but the appearance of these men left them confused and unsure of what was happening. This group of men are not the usual police officers or security guards that Tatiana or the local residents can easily recognize. They don't need to carry uniforms or badges to prove their authority. Their appearance, with their elegant attire and resolute demeanor, inherently demonstrated that they are influential figures in society, not individuals whom the group of young people could easily mock or disdain. One of them, who seemed to be the leader, approached the group of young people with steady and decisive steps. His face was cold, his deep-set eyes staring straight at the group of young people, as if he wanted to absorb every move they made. Without saying a word, he just stood still for a moment, allowing the tense atmosphere to spread, making the young people start to feel that their presence might no longer be welcome as before. It wasn't the threats or the scolding, but rather his confident gaze and demeanor that changed everything. Decisively, he spoke up, his voice deep and powerful, making the group of young people unable to ignore him. "What are you all doing?" A simple question, but it contained a sternness and demanded a clear answer. There is no softness or ignoring. That question is like a warning that their actions cannot continue without consequences. The group of young people, accustomed to freedom and the feeling of not being accountable to anyone, began to feel uneasy. They didn't know much about these men, but a sense of unease quickly settled in their hearts. The mockery and jokes they had made earlier suddenly seemed incredibly trivial, as if they were not worth mentioning. In contrast to their previous mockery, they now begin to clearly sense a powerful presence that they can no longer joke about. When the powerful men approached the group of young people, the atmosphere, which was once filled with laughter and mockery, suddenly became silent. A strange silence enveloped the atmosphere, making it feel heavy. The group of young people, at first, stood bewildered and somewhat confused, not knowing how to react to the sudden appearance of these individuals. They had not yet grasped the situation, but the solemnity and determination of the men in front of them gradually made them realize that this was not a situation that could be easily dealt with. A few young men, still bewildered and trying to sneak glances at each other, felt scared. The gazes of those men seemed to bore into them, as if there were no place to escape. Their previous freedom, the freedom to mock others without fear of consequences, suddenly vanished. They felt like lost children, not knowing what to do when faced with a force they could not resist. Some young people began to awkwardly justify themselves, trying to come up with vague reasons to excuse their behavior. But those explanations quickly became meaningless under the cold and resolute gaze of the men. Every word spoken lacked weight, and even they themselves felt that none of them could escape the control of these men. Those men didn't need to shout or threaten. With just their unwavering attitude and cold gaze, they made the group of young people feel small and weak. Just a few short minutes later, the group of young people began to withdraw. None of them dared to laugh or tease anymore. The mocking words they had uttered earlier suddenly became empty and meaningless. A feeling of confusion, even regret, crept into their minds. They couldn't help but realize that their actions had crossed the line and could not continue without paying the price. And then, the group of young people quietly walked away, without a word of mockery, without a look of disdain. They realized that they had made a mistake thinking they could mock others without fearing the consequences. The people they once thought were easy to mock are now the ones who can silence them with just a glance. With the appearance of powerful individuals, the group of young people learned a valuable lesson about respect and not misjudging those they do not understand. The biggest lesson from this event is not only for the group of young people, but also a message for everyone in society. Sometimes we easily judge and mock those we consider weak and vulnerable. However, this story reminds us that respect is a value that should be maintained not only with those who are our equals, but also with everyone, regardless of who they are or what age they are. Moreover, the story also points out that strength and power do not always need to be demonstrated through strong or violent actions. Sometimes a timely appearance, with a resolute attitude, and without the need to utter threatening words, is enough to make the ignorant aware of their behavior. Respect and power do not only come from position or social status, but also from the way we treat others. Ultimately, Peter's actions, although not directly involving the group of young people, were the quick and timely intervention that brought about a change in this situation. Peter's actions are a clear testament to the love and protection of family, as well as maturity and responsibility in dealing with difficult situations. The final result is that not only did the group of young people recognize the value of respect, but we are all reminded that sometimes calmness and a proper attitude can help solve bigger problems gently and effectively. When everything gradually calmed down and the atmosphere returned to peace, Tatiana stood there, watching the group of young people awkwardly leave. She felt relieved not to have to face a noisy argument or conflict, but instead a strong yet skillful intervention that helped protect her dignity without having to speak much. A sense of satisfaction arose within her as she realized that she did not let the disrespect from others disturb her inner peace. She turned to those who had just helped her, those with power who had intervened in a timely manner. For them, Tatiana didn't need to utter a long-winded thank you, just a gentle smile, showing deep gratitude. Her smile was not only an expression of gratitude, but also a way to affirm that she still maintained her dignity and resilience, despite life's challenges. There was no need to say much. She just nodded slightly, showing her appreciation for those who had intervened in this situation. With this action, Tatiana has demonstrated a commendable quality, calmness and maturity in facing difficulties. She understands that sometimes words are unnecessary. Decisive actions and a proper attitude are enough to protect oneself and uphold important values. The men, after completing their tasks, did not need to say anything more. They simply nodded gently at Tatiana, a simple gesture, but full of respect. There is no self-satisfaction or need to boast about their achievements. They understand that their intervention is not meant to attract attention, but is merely a necessary action, demonstrating protection for the vulnerable and safeguarding societal values. Just a gentle nod, they turned their backs and walked towards the car parked by the roadside. No lengthy conversations, no compliments or pride. These people know that sometimes silence and decisive action are the most appropriate answers. They don't need to make a big deal out of it, nor do they need to remind anyone that they have helped someone, because their actions speak for themselves. That scene, with the silence and the subtlety in everyone's behavior, created a serene atmosphere. For Tatiana, she felt respect not only from those who had helped her, but also from herself. She continued walking along the familiar path, gently and calmly as usual, unaffected by unforeseen circumstances. And in her mind, this moment, with all its tranquility and mutual respect, will be a beautiful memory that she will never forget. The story of Tatiana is not only a lesson in patience and self-respect, but also a profound reminder of the value of respect in society, especially towards the elderly. Tatiana, though elderly and slow, did not allow anyone to harm her dignity. She is patient and steadfast in her principles, not allowing the thoughtless actions of the young to affect her soul and spirit. Through Tatiana's actions, we learn that respecting others is not just an external act, but also a core value that needs to be nurtured from within. She teaches us that sometimes silence and calmness are the greatest strengths, and that is also a way to protect moral values in society. Moreover, Tatiana also conveyed an important message to the young people in the story, that not all teasing actions bring joy or humor. Sometimes, seemingly harmless jokes can cause harm or create unpredictable situations. And more importantly, there are people you cannot casually mock, for they may possess a strength and resilience that you cannot assess just by their appearance. In the end, this story is not only a lesson for Tatiana, but also a powerful message for those mischievous young people. Through their actions, the group of young people learned an important lesson about respect and self-awareness. When they realized that they couldn't just do whatever they wanted without considering the feelings of others, they became more mature. They understand that, although they may be young and strong, strength and freedom are not always things that can be used to impose on others. This lesson will stay in their minds for a long time and will be an important milestone in each person's journey of growth. The story's conclusion is not just the end of a simple situation, but also a turning point in the thinking of both parties, Mrs. Tatiana and the group of young people. It is a lesson about respect, patience, and most importantly, the recognition of the value of each individual in society. Regardless of age, we all have the right to be respected and treated fairly. Tatiana has proven that, without needing to react strongly or argue, simply by maintaining our values and the right attitude, we can still overcome thoughtless actions and protect the peace in our lives.